We begin today the Gemara, the last two words on Daf Lamed Aleph Lamed Beis, continuing in the sugya of Kibbud Aveim. Yibayelahu, the Shaila was asked, Mishalmi, from who comes the funds, the money to fulfill the mitzvah of Kibbud Aveim? We just said you have to give the father to eat and to drink and everything else you have to do to honor him. But who pays for all of this? Rav Yudah Amar Mishal Ben, that the son has to take from his money out of his own pocket to do all this for the father. Rav Nasim Ba'oishia Omar Mishal Av, that the mitzvah is to do all of this, to provide all this for the father, but the son doesn't have to take the money from his own pocket. He just takes from his father's money and buys for him food and his clothing and everything else. So the Gemara says, Oiru le Rabbanan le Rav Yirmiyah, Rabbanan taught Rav Yirmiyah, Va'amri le Breder Rav Yirmiyah, or they taught the son of Rav Yirmiyah, Kamandama Mishalav, like the second opinion that said that the mitzvah of Kibbud Aveim is only to take from the money of the father. Okay, there's different Rishittas and Rishayim though about this. This is the halacha, that the mitzvah of Kibbud Aveim is only Mishalav. But, first of all, there's a question that all the Rishayim speak about regarding the Gemara before that we learned by Dama ben Asina, where the Gemara brings the story. The Gemara asks, up until what point is Kibbud Aveim? And it brings the story of Dama ben Asina, where he lost a tremendous sum of money because of Kibbud Av. Why didn't he wake up his father if it says here that it's only Mishal Av? He doesn't have to lose any money himself for this mitzvah of Kibbud Aveim. So the Rishonim say, there, he didn't earn money. That he was mechuyev to do. He doesn't have to take money out of his pocket for the mitzvah of Kibbud Av. But for Kibbud Av, he's not allowed to wake up his money, even if it's going to be a loss of money that he would have earned otherwise. That he is mechuyev. Another thing some Rishonim say is that when it says here that the mitzvah is only Mishal Av, that's meaning if the father has his own money and the son has his money, so then if the son is going to the grocery for the father, he pays the bills with the father's money. But in a case where the father does not have his own money, in such a case the son is mechuyev to provide for his father. There's a lot of discussions about this, exactly when how this Mishal Av applies. Okay, but the Gemara is going to ask a few questions on this. The Gemara Meisvei, a Braisa says, Nema, the pasuk says, Kabbadas avicha v'simecha, and then the pasuk says, V'nema kabbadas Hashem ehoincha. So we learned before that we compared the two, the kavod of Kibbud Aveim and the kavod of the Eibishter. But here this Braisa says, Mal alon b'chisaron kis, just like when you honor the Eibishter, it includes even a loss of money from your own. Avkam b'chisaron kis, so too the mitzvah of Kibbud Av means even to give out your own money for this purpose. So we clearly see that it includes chisaron kis. V'yamit mishalav, if you're just the loss of the money, who's the money coming from? From the father. My nafkalei minei. What relevance is there from this loss of money to the son? It's not his money b'chlal. And says the Gemara lebitl malacha. This Braisa meant bitl malacha, meaning that you don't have to give money from your own pocket, but if you have to take time off of work to go and serve a father, and then there'll be bitl malacha, loss of that income of the work, that he's obligated, and that's what we're learning out from Kavod Hashem Ehoincha. Toshama, Rai from another Braisa. This is a halacha of Ma'aseh Sheni. So before we learn the Braisa inside, we had before already the halacha here in this Masechta regarding Ma'aseh Sheni. When you redeem the fruits and you want to, instead of bringing the fruits to Yerushalayim, you want to use money to bring to Yerushalayim, so you redeem the fruits and instead the money becomes Ma'aseh Sheni. So the halacha is, if you're redeeming your own fruits, you have to add a fifth to that, a chaimish. If someone else is redeeming them, he does not have to add a chaimish. You can redeem it for its value without an additional fifth. So now here this Braisa says, Beizachim, it's two brothers, Shnei Shutfim, two partners, Ha'avu B'noi, a father and a son, Ha'rava Talmidai, teacher and a student. So these are all people that are very close to one another, and they sort of share things together. But nevertheless, Paidin Zelazeh, Ma'aseh Sheni, they redeem for one another the Ma'aseh Sheni without adding a fifth. Even though, for example, by the father and the son, you could think that the father is redeeming, or the son is redeeming the father's Ma'aseh Sheni, it's like his, it's the same. But no, it's like I'm redeeming someone else's Ma'aseh Sheni, and I don't have to add a fifth. Another halacha, and this is what's relevant here for the Raya the Gemara wants to bring, Umachilin zelezeh Ma'aseh Ani. Right, on some of the years of, on the third year and on the sixth year, you give Ma'aseh Ani instead of Ma'aseh Sheni. So a son could give his father to eat. That's what's speaking about all these different examples here, but what's relevant for us over here is the son and the father. A son can give the father to eat for when he's serving him the mitzvah of Kibbud Av. He can give him from the Ma'aseh Ani that he has to separate and give to poor people. Now the question is, V'yamrit Mishal Ben. If you're going to say that the obligation of a son to serve his father is his obligation to take money out of his pocket to serve his father, Nimtza, if so, it comes out that the son, even without this Maisa Ani, has an obligation to give his father from his own money. You can't give Maisa Ani from something that you anyways have otherwise beforehand, a mitzvah and a chiyuv to give that tzedakah, or to give that over here for the father. So he has a chiyuv, and now he's taking what he anyways has a chiyuv, and he's giving that from the Maisa Ani. So it comes out that you're paying your obligation that you had beforehand from the Maisa Ani, Mishal Aniyim. How can you do that? So this is a proof that it must be that mitzad kibudav, he doesn't have to take money out of his own pocket. So therefore he's allowed to use Maisa Ani for this. And says the Gemara, what this Bais is speaking about is not the basic obligation that a son has to feed his father mitzvah the mitzvah of kibbutz. He has to give him food properly, breakfast, whatever it is, the average. He's giving him something extra, more. And that extra, which the son doesn't have an obligation, so that he's giving him from the Ma'aser Ani. If that's what this Bais is saying, it's talking here about this extra. On this Braise, it says further, another Braise, Rabbi Yehuda said about this. It's that a curse should come upon someone that feeds his father from Ma'aser Ani. So why? Why should he be cursed? If he's feeding over here, the hadafa, the extra, he's not taking from the obligation that he had anyways, and now taking away from poor people to fulfill his obligation. He's just feeding him extra. So my nafkamina. So then why is this? Why should there be a me'eda for this person? He's not giving his father from the chiyuv that he has. He's giving more from extra, and his father's a poor person, so he can give the Ma'aser Ani to his father. Why not? Says the Gemara, even though Take, he's allowed to do this, but nevertheless, this is embarrassing for the father. The fact that he's feeding his father, and he's taking from a tzedakah fund, from Ma'aser Ani to feed his father gets embarrassed by this, and therefore, it's therefore Tovim Eira. Tashema, the Gemara tries to bring another raya. Shalus Rabbi Lazar ad heichon kibud aveim. Ask Rabbi Lazar this shaila, up until what point does kibud aveim go? Amalahem. So you answer them, Kidei sheyitol arneki. If the father takes a wallet of money, v'zirken aliyam befonav, and he throws it into the water in front of the son, ve'ena machlibay, and the son doesn't embarrass the father. That's how far it goes. Now, says the Gemara, V'yamrit mishalav. If you're going to say that the father took the wallet of money of his own, not from the son, because if you took from the son, then the son can scream at him, you're taking my money. This is not money that I'm obligated to give for the mitzvah of kibbutz. So if you're going to say, no, it's mishalav, so then my nafkaleh minai. Why would the son react and embarrass his father? It's the father's money. If the father goes and throws his money, it's not going to bother the son. And says the Gemara, no beroyle yarshai. Even if it is the father's money, but it's a son that could be yarshaning the father, and he sees his father taking the money that he would yarshan one day and throwing it away, so the son would naturally scream at the father, and he doesn't embarrass him. That's the kibbutz avir. And the Gemara brings an example of a story that happened. Rabbe bar Ravhuna, Rabbe, the son of Ravhuna, the Ravhuna kora shiroi b'ampe Rabbe berei. Ravhuna tore an expensive garment in front of Rabbe's son. Omar, he said, Ezel achvi, let me go and see, or echsi, let me see, irasach ilay rasach. What will happen? How will my son Rabbi react? Is he going to get angry? Is he not going to get angry? He wanted to test his level of kibbudav. So over here we see that why was he upset? It was his own garment. Shirai belonged to Rav Huna. But his son would get upset about this, because what are you taking a good garment that one day could be mine, and you're going and tearing it? Now, this story itself here, Vidilme Rasach, how could Rav Huna do such a thing, testing his son to see if he would get angry or not? But what would happen if he would get angry? You're causing a blind to stumble, meaning you're doing something which would trigger anger by his son, and it could cause him to stumble. How is he allowed to do such a thing? He would be over in the midst of kibbudav. And says the Gemara, the machale liyakare. So he was meichel his kavod, he was meichel the kibbudav. Fragt the Gemara, so vaha, but if he was meichel the kavod of kibbudav, this is fine. So he's not going to be over in the midst of kibbudav. He still wanted to test him to see, even though he was meichel the kibbudav, he still wanted to see how he would react to this. Right? Or we'll see later also on in the Gemara, even mitzad kibbudav, even when a father is meichel, he's still supposed to give honor even after he's meichel. But the Gemara has another question. How are you allowed to tear a good garment? This is of Baltashchis. And says the Gemara, that he tore it on the seam. So it's not Baltashchis, you can sew it back. In fact, the Gemara, if that's what he did, so then he's not, how could he test him by this? He won't get angry because he sees that it's just tear it and you sew it right back together. Says the Gemara, he saw that his son Rabba was already upset about something. He was in an emotional state, and if he would do this in front of him, he wanted to test him whether he's going to get excited and angry at him, because he, in such a state, he won't notice that or he won't realize that it's on the seam. So this was the situation that he was testing him to see if he would get angry at his father. Upon him. In the Braisus over here, the Gemara didn't bring a clear raya, but as I said, the halacha is that the mitzvah of kibbud is only mishalav. Okay, here the Gemara brings another conversation of halacha between Amirayim, between a father and a son, and in how this conversation went, the Gemara will learn out from this a halacha of kibbud. But the actual halacha itself has nothing to do with kibbud. Masni lei Rav Yecheskel l'Rami berei. Rav Yecheskel taught his son Rami the following Mishnah. This is a Mishnah in Masechta Sanhedrin. Hanisrafim v'niskolim. If you have people that are chayiv misa, so there's amongst the chiyuvim of misa, there's either a chiyuv of sreifa or a chiyuv of skila. So now someone that's chayiv a misa of sreifa got confused and mixed with others that are chayiv in skila, and now it's not clear who he is. So what kind of a misa do you give him? That you give him all skila, because shas sreifa chamura. Between these two, sreifa is a more harsher punishment. So if you have a suffix, you can't give the harsher punishment. You're going to have to give the lighter punishment. Okay, so now the language of this mission, the way he taught it was nisrafim bin niskolim. So as we'll see here in the Gemara, nisrafim bin niskolim sounds like that the niskolim were the majority. And there's one person that was chayiv sreifa that got mixed with others that were chayiv skila. So the one that's chayiv sreifa was the minority mixed with niskolim that were the majority. That's how he taught the halacha, and he explained that you only give skila because that's the lighter punishment of death here. So this was what Rav Yecheskel, that is, taught Rami, his son. Now the brother, Amalei Rav Yehuda Berei, Rav Yehuda, which another son of Rav Yecheskel, says to his father, Abba, my father, lo tisnei hachi. Don't teach the Mishnah this way, because if this is what happened, then my area is sreifa chamura. Why would you have to say that the reason why the one that got mixed in here will not get the chiyuv of sreifa because that's a harsher punishment? Typically, you can give a simpler reason. The ruba niskalim, because the way you read it, the nisrafim are mixed in the niskalim. The majority of the people are in niskalim, so you always go by the raiv. So you should get only skila. So Allah, he says to his father, hachi isne. This is how you have to read the Mishnah. Haniskalim v'nisrafim. That there was one that was chayiv skila, maybe more than one, but the minority, the niskalim are the minority, and they got mixed into the nisrafim. The nisrafim are the majority. So over here in such a case, you would think that if they're mixed, if it's a confusion of who's chayiv the skila here and who's not, you should go after the majority, which is reifa. And on that, the Mishnah is saying the chiddush that you don't follow the majority. You go by the lighter punishment, which is skila, according to this opinion. That's how you have to read the chiddush of this Mishnah. That's what Rav Yehuda tells his father. Now Malay, so Rami, his father, says back to his son, Rav Yehuda, Bariyachi Seifa. If the case over here is that the ones that are chayiv sreifa, the majority, let's see what it says in the seifa of this Mishnah. The Chachamim Maimrim Yedunu b'sreifa. Chachamim disagree with this, and they say when there's a mixture here of these people that are chayiv misa, so then you actually give sreifa. Why? Shaskila chamura. Skila is a harsher punishment. So the lighter punishment, when they are mixed, you're giving the lighter punishment, which is sreifa. So the Gemara asks in this, but now, my area, the skila chamura. Why do you have to give the reason here that you're going to give the lighter misa, which is skila, because skila, again, that you're going to give the punishment of sreifa, that is, because skila is a harsher punishment. What do you need that reason for? Typically, the Ruben is rafin in it. You just explained that in the ratio of this Mishnah, the case over here is that the majority are the ones that are chayiv sreifa. So that's enough of a reason why you give sreifa. You don't have to tell me the reason is because sreifa is a lighter punishment. The reason is because the people that are chayiv sreifa are the majority here. Amalei, so you answered him, you're right. That could have been the reason. That alone would have been a sufficient reason. But Hasam Rabbanan hu dekamre leile Rab Shimon. Rabbanan are telling Rab Shimon that the point that you said, according to your opinion, dika amre tzreifa chamura, this that you said that you give sreifa because, again, dika amre tzreifa chamura, this that you said that sreifa is a harsher punishment, and therefore you give the lighter one, which is skila. So, like on this, Rabbanan are coming to argue on the foundation, on the main point that Rab Shimon said, skila chamura, that really skila is harsher. But as far as the actual halach is concerned, he wouldn't have needed this reason. He could have just simply said that the case over here is that it's mostly nisrafim. Okay, Adkan, the conversation between Rabbi Yecheskel and his son Rav Yehuda regarding how you're supposed to read this Mishnah, what's the correct pshat in this Mishnah. Now the Gemara says about this conversation, Amalei Shmuel, Rav Yehuda, so Shmuel tells Rav Yehuda, Shinana, sharp one. This is an expression the Gemara uses on Rav Yehuda many times. He was very sharp in his learning. You shouldn't speak to your father, even when it's in learning, you shouldn't speak to your father this way. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braise, if a person sees his father going against something in Torah, so that's even regarding a mitzvah and Aveda. Al Yemeloi, you shouldn't say to him, Abba, avartal divrei Torah. Father, you're being over on what it says in the Torah. Eloi Meloi, rather, he says to him, Abba, my father, kach kasav b'Torah. This is what it says in the Torah. You don't say to him directly, you are being over, but you say, this is what it says in the Torah. So the Gemara asks in that, kach kasav b'Torah? Could you say it so directly to your father, this is what it says in the Torah, tzurika mitzarle? Even with this expression, you're still causing your father pain, and saying to him, this is what it says in the Torah, and he has pain by the fact that he's not doing what it says in the Torah, that you're speaking to him this way, really. Ela rather, what you say is, Abba mikra kasav b'Torah kach. When a person sees a father being over something, you read the pasuk that it says in the Torah, and the father realizes on his own that according to that pasuk, what he did was not right. So same thing goes in the conversation of learning. You shouldn't say, Loi tisne, don't learn like this, learn differently. It's interesting. If you remember, we had before in the Gemara discussed as Vav B'Sufa, the Gemara said that even a father and a son that learn Torah together, they are asking to each other questions, and it comes to the point even that it's like a battle, like mamash, like a fight, and then in the end they come to love each other. So it means a father and a son have to learn Torah, and they ask each other questions, and it has to be with the full koch that there is in learning with it. But still, nevertheless, even in Torah, when a person speaks to his father, it should be in the right way. What's the halacha if Abba mashkeni mayim? Father says to his son, bring me water. So right now he has the mitzvah of kibbud or mitzvah lasais, and then but there's another mitzvah that he has to do at the same time. And Rashi gives the example of the mitzvah of alavaya to be kover ames. And Rashi brings this example because this is a mitzvah iveres. He has a mitzvah that he has to do right now, but at the same time his father also wants the water right now. So what do you do? So he said, Maniach ani kaved abba v'isas a mitzvah. So I'm going to leave the covet of my father, and I'm going to go and do that mitzvah to bury this person. Shani va'abba chayavim b'mitzvah, because really myself and my father are obligated to go and bury this person that no one else will bury. Isi ben Yehuda says, and if someone else could go and do that mitzvah, so then let someone else do the mitzvah, and you go and do the mitzvah of kibbud av. Rav Masna, halacha ki isi ben Yehuda. Halacha is like isi ben Yehuda. You have to wait to see if someone else could do the mitzvah. Okay, now we come to another halacha of being moichel. This is basically the last thing of kibbud av, and then the Gemara goes into a different subject. Amar Rav Yitzchak Bashila, Amar Rav Masna, Amar Rav Chista, ha'av shamacha al kevaydai, a father that forgives, he's moichel on his honor, kevaydai machel. So his honor is forgiven, and you don't have to give your father the honor. Right, but as we'll see soon in the Gemara, even if you don't have to give your father the honor, but nevertheless, there's still some hiddur. You still should show him some hiddur. And there's another thing, somebody shaynim say, when the father is meichel on his kavod, so there's actually no mitzvah anymore. Can't fulfill the mitzvah. The father was meichel. But there are other shaynim that say that even though he was meichel, you're not obligated, but if you do still honor him, you're still fulfilling a mitzvah. Now, harav shemachal al kavaydei, a teacher that's meichel on his kavod, which is also a mitzvah and a chiyuv to give him honor, ein kvaydei machal. The teacher, his kavod is not machal. But Rav Yosef says, afila harav shemachal al kvaydei machal. Even a teacher that's meichel on his kavod is forgiven. And the source is from the Eibishter himself. Shenema, the pasuk says, Vashem hoylech lifneim yoimam. The Eibishter is going ahead of the Yidden to show them the way. So even though the Eibishter is the greatest teacher of all, the teacher of Yidden, nevertheless, the Eibishter is meichel on his kavod and leads the way for the Yidden. Amar Rava, so Rava answers, how could you compare the fact that the Eibishter is Meichel and is covered to a teacher that's Meichel? Hachi ashta, no comparison. The world belongs to him. Teire dilehi, and it's the Eibishter's Teire. Machalei liyakare. The Eibishter could be Meichel on his honor. But over here, hacha Teire dilehi. Over here, could you say that the Teire, that a teacher is teaching someone Teire, is a Teire, his Teire, that he could be Meichel on it? Why do you have to honor the teacher? You're honoring the teacher? You're not honoring. You're honoring the Teire. And the Teire doesn't belong to the teacher. How could he forgive on this honor of the Teire? Amar Rava, so Rava answers, yes, Teire dilehi. The Teire is his. The chsiv u'b'seirah soy yega yomim v'loyla. It says in the pasuk that he toils in Teire, he learns Teire day and night. So Rashi brings the Teire, the pasuk there says, b'seiras Hashem cheftzai, and b'seirah soy yega. So on one hand, the pasuk refers to it as Teire Hashem, and then it says Teire Soy, that it's his Teire. What does this mean? When a person starts learning Teire, it's the Eibishter's Teire. But then when he learns it well, it becomes his Teire. Right? This is Inyan is brought very often in Maimonim and Chassidus, that over here you see the mila that Teire has over a mitzvah. A mitzvah that you do with the greatest bittul, with Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shemayim, but the mitzvah doesn't identify you. It identifies what you do for the Eibishter. A Teire which goes into your brain and is understood by the person, it's a much greater yichud. The Eibishter gave a koyach that you could learn and connect and be one with the Teire, to the point that the Eibishter, the gatlichkeit of the Teire, and you become one mamish. So much so that it's yours, that you can be meichel on it. That's only a later point when a person learns well. But Sayyid becomes unified with the Eibishter and the Teire. Now the Gemara asks on this, Eini, is this halacha true? That a Rav could be meichel on his kavod? But the story was, V'harava, so he was going around giving people to drink at the chasana, at the wedding of his son. And v'dole kasa l'Rav Papa l'Rav Huna, so he poured, or he gave a glass for Rav Papa and Rav Huna, Rav Yeshua, that is. V'kamo mekamei, and when Rava came around, they got up for Rava. And then when Rava came, l'Rav Mari or l'Rav Pinchas, Rav Chisda, when he came to Rav Mari and Rav Pinchas, the son of Rav Chisda, and he was pouring for them, they didn't get up for Rava. And Ikpid, Rava was bothered by this. And why didn't they get up for him? And Rava said, Hanu Rabbanon, Rabbanon, Hanu Rabbanon, Lav Rabbanon. You look at yourself and say that you're Rabbanon, you're honorable enough that you don't have to get up for me. And the others that got up for me, they're not Rabbanon, and therefore they do have to get up for me. That's the title of these words over here. So in other words, we see over here that even though Rava was Meichel on his kavod, it looks like, Rava was going around serving everyone. But nevertheless, even though he was Meichel, you still have to get up for him. And when they didn't get up for him, Rava was disappointed about this. Now, Vesu, another story is similar. Rav Papa Rav Papa was going around giving everyone to drink at the chasana of Abba Mar, his son. And he poured a cup for Rav Yitzchak, the son of Rav Yehuda. And Rav Yitzchak did not get up for Rav Papa. And he was disappointed about this. So you see here, even though he was Meichel, still you have to give the kavod. Answers the Gemara, it doesn't mean that a Rav Shemachal Kavod ain't Kavod Machal. His kavod is Taka Machal. But Afilahachi Hidur Me'eved Leiboy. You still have to do Hidur, you still have to be Mahader even after you Meichel in the kavod. So it says in the Paiskim, I think the Torah says this, that what does it mean Hidur you have to do? So for example, if he's not Meichel, so the Hidur for the Rav is that when he comes into the room, you have to totally stand up. But Hidur means you lift yourself up a little bit off the chair. That's called Hidur that you do even after his Meichel is covered. Amar Rav Ashi says, even Rav Yosef that said before that a teacher that's Meichel on his covered, so it's forgiven. But Nasi Shemachal al Kavod and Kavod Machal. Nasi, this is like the Nasi of the Sanhedrin or the leader of all the Yidden. If he's Meichel on his covered is not forgiven. So Meisvei on this as well, the Gemara asks the Shaila, because Maisa b'Rab Eliezer, b'Rab Yeshua, b'Rab Tzadik, these three Tanoim, Shoyim Mesubim, Beis Mister, Shal Benoy, Shal Rabbi Gamliel. They were sitting together by the chasana of the son of Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi in his times. V'hoy Rabbi Gamliel oimudu mashka aleim. Rabbi Gamliel was standing there and pouring them and serving them. Nasan hakais l'Rab Eliezer v'loy notlay. So he poured the kais for Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer did not want to take it, did not want to be served by Rabbi Gamliel. Nasan l'Rab Yeshua v'kiblay. And he poured for Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Yeshua accepted it. Amalei Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Eliezer turns to Rabbi Yeshua and says to him, Mazeh Yeshua. What are you doing over here? Why are you allowing yourself to be served by Rabbi Gamliel? Anu Yeshvin, we're going to sit here with Rabbi Gamliel Beribi, which is an expression of greatness. Oymedu Mashka Aleinu, and he's going to stand and serve us. So over here we see in this story that there was this discussion over here whether the covet is machal or not. And what he asked him this question: How could you allow the nasi to go and service his covet? He can't be machal on his covet. Amalei. So Rabbi Yeshua answered, no, Matzinu Gadol Mimena Sheshimish. We find someone greater than Rabbi Gamliel that also went and served others. Avram Gadol Adeirhaya. Avram Avinu is the greatest in his time. The Kosev by the pasuk says, V'hu Oimed Aleim, and he's standing and serving the guest that came to him over there in Parshas Vayera. It's different. That the Malachim came to him, and he saw that these are Malachim, and that's why he's serving them. So the answer is that's not true. To Avram Avinu, they appeared as Arabs. That Rashi here brings as Arabs that are bowing down to the dust that's on their feet. And nevertheless, Avram Avinu is going and serving them. Yeah, so that's V'anu, he concluded. V'anu lo yehi Rabbi Gamliel berebi oimed mashka aleinu. So over here, if Rabbi Gamliel is moichel on his covet, so we can't allow Rabbi Gamliel to come and serve us. So that was the raya that Rabbi Yeshua brought from Avram Avinu. Then Rab Tzaddik that was sitting there also said, Amalem Rab Tzaddik, Ad masayat manichem kvede shel makayim vatem oiskim bekaved abrius. Why do you leave the covet of the Eibishter and you talk about the covet of human beings that the Eibishter created? In other words, he's saying instead of bringing a raya from Avram Avinu, you can bring a raya from the Eibishter himself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Meshav Ruchais, the Eibishter brings the wind into the world, and Mailan Asiyim, also wind. Umayrid Mata, and brings rain, Umatzmiach Adam, and he makes it grow, Va'irich Shulchan Lefnei Kol Echad Ve'echad, and prepares a table for every single person. The Eibishter serves every person. Right, so the Mefarshim over here say the details that it mentions here, the fact that the Eibishter brings everything for the entire world, that's sort of the Eibishter's obligation, or in other words, that's the Eibishter created the world. So, but the fact that the Eibishter is Eirich Shulchan Lefnei Kol Echad Ve'echad, the individual thing that on the level of every person the Eibishter provides for a person, even more than just b'chlal, but for every individual, that's something which it shows that the Eibishter is being meichel on his covet. V'ano lo yehei Rabbi Gamliel berebi oimed mashka aleinu. So Rabbi Gamliel should not be standing here and serving us. So therefore, we see here from the story that these Tanaim concluded that a nasi could be meichel on his covet. Ella says the Gemara, iyitma. If we learned what Rav Ashi said that regarding who cannot be meichel on his covet, what was taught is as follows. Even if it's true that I'm nasi that's meichel on his covet, so his covet will be forgiven. Melech shemachal al kvaydai ein kvayde machal. A melech does not have the ability to be meichel on his covet. Shenema, as the pasuk says, soim tasim alecha melech shetehei ei masay alecha. By a melech, when it says the double lashon soim tasim, it's saying that the fear of the king has to be upon the people. So even though you could argue that the mashal that it says before about the Eibishter applies to a melech, just like it applies to a nasi, and a melech should be allowed to serve you, no less than the Eibishter. But nevertheless, here you see that the mitzvah of the melech is that people have to accept the melech with a certain awe and reverence. So mitzvah that, in order to fulfill the mitzvah of soim tasim alecha, the melech can't be meichel on his covet. Tana Rabbanah, we learned in the Braisa, the source over here of the fact that you have to give honor for a teacher or for someone that's older and so on. So the Braisa says, Mipnei Seva Takom, the pasuk says you should get up for someone that's older. What does this mean? Yachal, I would think, Afilu Mipnei Zaken Ashmoi. This includes even a Zaken Ashmoi. So there's two pshatim to this. Rashi says a Zaken Ashmoi is someone that's a Rasha and Amaretz. Taisus says, no, it can't be a Rasha. A Rashi, Taka don't have to give covet to, but it means someone that's just an Amaretz, a Zaken that's an Amaretz. But there are Mefarshim that say that Rashi, no, means Dafke, even a Rasha. That here the Gemara is coming to say that you would think even for a Rasha. Okay, and the Gemara has to bring a special pasuk to say not for a Rasha. Tamad Loimar Zakin. Another pasuk right there, in the same pasuk when it says Mipnei Seva Takom, and it says Vahadarta Pnei Zakin. So over there it says Zakin. Ve'ein Zakin Ela Chacham. Who's a zaken? A zaken is someone that's wise, someone that learns Torah. Shenemar is esfali shivim ish miziknei Yisrael, and these shivim ish miziknei Yisrael were the chachamim. Rabbi Yisrael Glili Aimer ein zaken ela mishakana chachma. Zaken, the word zaken itself means that he's kana chachma. Shenemar Hashem kanani reishes darkai. It's actually the word zaken is ze kana. That's it's the Rosh Tevis of the word itself. Ze kana, that he acquired. What did he acquire? Acquired chachma. Hashem kanani reishes darkai. So it refers to chachma. Now Yachol, here the Brisa brings other halachas regarding the kavod that you have to give for a zaken. I would think that you have to get up for the Talmud Chacham even from a far place. He doesn't even realize that you're getting up for him. Talmud Loima Takim V'Adarta. The pasuk says you have to get up for him, and then it says V'Adarta, you have to give him honor. You have to only get up for him if he's within your Daled Amis, and then when you're getting up for him, it's honor for him because it's clear that it's for him. Another halacha. I would think that you have to give him honor even if it includes you spending money for the sake. We compare takim to what it says v'adarta. Ma kima she'em b'chesarin kis. Just like standing up for the chacham doesn't cost you any money. Av hidor she'em b'chesarin kis. So too, giving the chacham his honor is also without it costing you money. I would think that you should have to get up for the chacham even in a bathroom or in a bathhouse. Again, we learn, we compare these two. Standing up for chacham is in a place where there's dignity, that there's honor that's to him. Not in a bathhouse, there's no hidur involved in that. Another thing, I would think a person can close his eyes and make believe as if he didn't see the chacham come here into the room, and therefore he doesn't get up for him. The Gemara will explain this, as the Gemara will explain every detail of this brayso. Why would I think a person can close his eyes and not do the mitzvah? When after the pasuk says you get up for the chacham, it says v'yareisa Hashem lekecha, which is dava masar l'leiv, something which is in a person's heart. And over here, the person could make believe as if he didn't see the chacham and he's really ignoring the chacham. So the pasuk says v'yareisa melekacha, the Davish sees what you're thinking. Rab Shimon ben Elazar learns out another thing from this. Minayin lezaken shelo yatriach. How do I know that the zaken himself should not cause people to get up for him? If he has another way to come in without causing everyone to stand up for him, how do we know that he shouldn't be matliach? Talmud loima zaken v'yareisa. So the v'yareisa goes on the chacham himself, that he shouldn't cause the tircha. The Shach says about this in the Shulchan Aruch Yeridei, that this tircha here is only in the times of the Gemara and times of Chazal. They didn't sit in chairs; they sat on the floor. So if the chacham walks in, for everyone to get up is actually a tircha. But today he says everyone sits comfortably on a chair just to stand up is not a tircha, and here the chacham can come in. Isi ben Yehuda says about these psukim here, mipnei seva tokum afil kol seva b'mashma. Mipnei seva tokum actually means for any older person you have to get up for him. Rabbi Yossi Aglili, what's the age of seva, by the way, it says based on what it says in Pirkei Avos that seva is the age of 70. You have to get up. Rabbi Yossi, okay, this is till here is the halacha of the brayso. Now the Gemara will explain the entire brayso. We'll learn part of it today and we'll continue tomorrow. Frak the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Haino Tanakama. It seems like Rabbi Yossi Aglili is saying the same thing as the Tanakama. They're both saying that you learn out from the pasuk that the zaken it says here is only someone that's it's a chacham as well, not just a zaken ashmoy, any amaretz or even maybe a rasha. Says the Gemara, Ikibenayu. The difference between them is yanik v'chakim, someone that's young but wise. So the difference over here is Tanakama Savar Yanik v'chakim loy. The Tanakama says that if he's young and wise, so you don't have to get up for him because he's learning from the pasuk. It says Mipnei Seva Tokum, and then it says Zakim, but it's not taking it out of the Pashat Pshat that it means someone that's old. Rabbi Yossi Aglili Sava Fili Yanik v'chakim. Then Rabbi Yossi Aglili is coming and he's telling the Tanakama that in the pshat of the pasuk, zaken, the word zaken itself means zek kana. Kana, he acquired chachma. It doesn't mean zikna. It means kana. And therefore, it's even someone that's young and wise, you have to get up for him as well. Says the Gemara, my time with Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Why did Rabbi Yossi Aglili do this? Take the pasuk pshat of the pasuk, it's out of its pasuk pshat, and say that even for someone that's young and wise, you have to stand up for him. If you would think like the Tanakama said, that Zaken means taka someone that's old, it should say it all together as one. Seva Zaken, you get up and you give him honor. Why did the pasuk Maishna the Palginu Rachmana? Why did the Torah divide this? Right? The actual lashon of the pasuk is Mipnei Seva Tokum, and then Vahadarta Pnei Zaken. It's writing it like it's two different things. So the Meimar is coming to teach the high, love high, the high, love high. The Seva is not the Zaken, and the Zaken is not the Seva. The Seva is talking speaking about someone that's old, but Zaken does not mean old. Zaken has to be read as Zekana, a person that's young, that's kind of Shmamina, Philayanik v'chakim. So that includes even someone that's young. The Tanakame, why does the Tanakame not want to learn like Rabbi Yossi Aglili? Because Mishum de Boyle and Mismach, the reason why the Torah divides it this way is because the Torah wants to write Zaken together with V'yaresa. It doesn't want to put Zaken in between together with Seva. It wants to put Zaken afterwards, right near the word V'yaresa, as the drushes that we learned out before. That from Zaken V'yaresa, you learn out that the Zaken himself should not be Matriach. The Tanakame, my time. Now, what's the reason for the Tanakama's opinion? The Tanakama says that it's dafka someone that's old. If it was true, like Rabbi Yossi Aglili said, that the Torah it actually means to separate two separate things: getting up for someone that's old and then getting up for someone that's young and wise. In Cain, the Torah should divide it clearly. Nichtev Rachmana, let the Torah say Mipnei Seva Tokum V'Hadarta, that you have to stand up and give honor for the Seva. So let it say both, the Tokum and the V'Hadarta for the Seva, and then say again, Tokum V'Hadarta Pnei Zaken. That both to get up and to give honor for the Zaken, which is a completely different thing. Over there it's talking about the one that's young and wise. The fact that the Torah does not repeat the two, Tokum V'Hadarta, for both of them separately, Shema Menochadu. So that tells me that it's really one and the same thing. Therefore, he says that only for someone that's a Zaken Kipshutei and he's a Chacham, you have to get up for him.